an improved Music Meister, and I have come to seek my vengeance. What? Why aren't you taking me seriously?
I mean, look at you. You look like an edgy middle schooler with a Beatles haircut who's rummaged through his mum's clothing. By trying to make yourself more intimidating and serious, you're only making yourself look more of a laughable loser than you already were.
Maybe you won't be laughing when I show you that I have this.
Oh, so that's where it went. You know, for the longest time I thought we'd lost it in the move. Well, I've done this song and dance before. I'll just use the magic nullifying apple picker.
You mean the one you gave to me? The one I still have?
Ah, shit. Fine. Do your worst.
I'm going to shut you in this room, and I will not let you out until you take me seriously.
Really? That's it? Man, you really are a pathetic loser.
Shut up!
Speaking of try-hard edgelords, God of War 3! Yeah, I'm out of Devil May Cry games, so I'll guess this'll do. The story of God of War 3 unsurprisingly takes place after God of War 2, where everyone's favourite bald, bleach-skinned, angry Spartan is leading an army of Titans up to Mount Olympus to dethrone the Olympians and kill Zeus because of, well, basically doing what Zeus usually does. After having a fight with Poseidon and introducing the god's eyes with his thumbs, Kratos is kicked off of Mount Olympus by Zeus, then betrayed by Gaia, and now ends up back in the underworld. Jeez, for the amount of times he's ended up in the underworld, I feel like Kratos needs to get an annual pass. Anyway, he bumps into Athena's ghost, who, after accidentally killing her in God of War 2, has come to the realisation that Zeus and the Greek gods need to go, and the only way to get rid of them is to extinguish something called the Flames of Olympus. After that exchange, Kratos heads off through the underworld, eventually bumping into Hephaestus, who ended up there after Zeus decided to cave his face in. Eventually, Kratos confronts Hades, who's pretty angry at him for killing his wife in the events of God of War Chains of Olympus for the PSP. Kratos then climbs up a chain from the underworld to Olympus, along the route bumping into Helios and killing him too. Kratos then finally arrives at the Flames of Olympus, only to find the Pandora's box from the first game? Basically, after the events of the first game, where Kratos killed Ares after opening Pandora's box, turns out opening the box released all the evils contained within, and those evils just so happened to infect and fester within the Greek gods themselves, making them even bigger arseholes than they already were. Which might also explain the apocalyptic events that happen each time one of the Olympian gods is killed. And the only way to kill Zeus permanently is to unleash something else that's hidden within the box, except Kratos can't get to the box as it's surrounded by the Flames of Olympus, and the only way to extinguish the Flames of Olympus is with Pandora herself. So Kratos heads off to search for Pandora, on the way killing Hermes, murdering Hercules, bumping into Aphrodite and, well, let's just say losing No Nut November. Kratos then heads back to the underworld to ask for Hephaestus' help, kills Kronos, and then turns on Hephaestus after he tried to kill Kratos. Then he returns to Olympus, kills Hera, and finally finds Pandora in a giant Rubik's Cube of death. Unfortunately, said giant Rubik's Cube is being held down by that giant chain from earlier. So Kratos then has to head back down to the underworld yet again, breaks the bottom of the chain, heads back up to Olympus, and then uses a crank in the flame room to hoist Pandora up to the room. Then Zeus shows up and explains that the only way to get to the box is to let the flames kill Pandora. Kratos refuses to do this because of his tragic backstory, but Pandora's all up for it because, well, this is literally what she was created to do. However, Kratos will not have it. Then Kratos and Zeus have a dramatic one-on-one boss fight. Pandora then gets sucked into the flames and dies, despite Kratos trying to save her. So what was all the point of that anyway? So Kratos opens the box to find nothing! Then he has another fight with Zeus. Then Gaia shows up and eats the two. Then Zeus and Kratos have another boss fight inside of Gaia before Kratos decides to impale Zeus and Gaia's heart with his big ass sword. And just when you think it's all over, Zeus's ghost bursts out of his body, grabs Kratos, draining him of his vitality. Kratos blacks out and has this weird internal hallucination. Eventually he snaps out of it, grabs Zeus's ghost, shoves it back into his body, beats the shit out of the bastard until he's finally dead for real. Athena then shows up and explains to Kratos why the box was empty and how he's been killing most of the Greek pantheon so easily. That when Kratos opened the box the first time, he absorbed the power of hope, which Athena just so happened to put in the box in case all the evils got out. And it's probably that power of hope that has been letting him overcome so many absurd and over-the-top tasks, as well as being able to kill all of the Greek gods. But now Athena wants that power back for herself, so she can save the world from the apocalypse it's currently having, and rule over all mankind as its one and only god. Kratos then basically goes screw that, impales himself with his own sword, releasing the power of hope into the world for everyone to have. And that's the end. Okay, there's a bit of an after credits scene where you see Kratos is gone, implying this later games, but yeah, that's the end. The gameplay is your God of War staple of hacky slashy character actiony goodness. There is some contention I have with it. One of the main ones being the control scheme, more specifically the fact you have to use the right analog stick to dodge. Now I think I've complained about this sort of thing before, but in my eyes if you're going to have a dodge button, the L and R buttons seem the most sensible. But then again, that's just me. The other teeny weeny issue I have with the game is that the fact that 3 of the 4 weapons that Kratos can wield are way too similar. To the point that I wonder if they should have just scrapped the 2 of them and just added their secondary attacks as alternate abilities for Kratos' main chain blades. The only real weapon that sort of breaks this mode is the super smashy Herc hands. Kratos does have a few other items that he can use, such as the bow of Apollo to shoot enemies from afar or set them on fire when charged up, the head of Helios that he can use to stun enemies and light dark areas, the boots of Hermes that aren't really yet useful outside of platforming sections, as well as his obligatory Rage of the Gods mode, where he decides to whack enemies over the head with the Blade of Olympus. The game does have a long and extensive list of combos, but I don't think they're interesting enough to talk about in detail. The graphics are pretty good. Not quite as good as God of War Ascensions, but then that came out after this one, so forget that. But they still look really good for a PS3 game. And your music is the standard array of God of War epicness that we have come to expect. Isn't that right? Oh yeah, he's evil now. Guess I'm moving on to the next section then. this game is good. Its gameplay is awesome. Its story is epic if kind of retarded at points. Its graphics were really good for the time and still hold up pretty well today, despite there being a HD re-release for the PS4 for some reason. And I say it's worth giving a go. And you know, with God of War Ragnarok either about to get released, if not already out by the time this video gets uploaded, I'd say this game's worth going back to. Whether you're just getting into the series, have only played the more recent couple of games and want to go back and see what the older games were about, or just want to replay the game for nostalgia's sake. Well, that's all from me. See you guys next time. But in the meantime, I have a call to make. Anyway, Kratos opens the Vox to Vox.
Guess who it is? Ghost Nappa!